Global FM. This is 99.5 Global FM, your number one source for R&B in the Bahamas. Yeah.
Global 99.5 FM reminds our listeners that the views and opinions expressed on this show are those of the host and guests and not necessarily the opinions of the owners of Global Communications Network and the operators of this radio station.
Today can be the turning point in your life by making a simple decision.
Fundamental questions of navigation. Where am I? Where am I going? And how do I get there from here?
I invite the leaders of our planet to ask themselves these three questions before they make any crucial decisions.
But if you don't make decisions, you're going to stay right where you are.
We are all map makers.
We are in a time of transition.
If we're going to change, we have to change the direction that we're going.
Our planet needs leaders who know where they want to go.
When we change the direction we're going, then we want to make sure we're going in the right direction.
Leaders who can see the big picture.
Because if we're not, we're going to either go backwards or we're going to stay where we are.
Recognizing the psychological and the spiritual shifts and changes that need to be made, often from the inside to the outside.
To be able to shape your future, you have to be willing and able to change your paradigm.
Complex journeys require navigation. The path to the truth is one such journey. This is your GPS. Hairstyling services provided by J.D. Edwards Salon and Spa, Palmdale Shopping Plaza, Madeira Street. Accessories provided by Chevette Williamson Jewelry. Standout jewelry for standout women. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to GPS Global Paradigm Shift on Global 99.5 FM. I am your host, Michelle Malcolm, and as always, it's a pleasure to be in your company today. Thank you so much for tuning in. Jason, is that camera on both of us or just... Okay. All right. Welcome to this Masterclass Monday, where we are covering the Constitution of the Bahamas, line by line, bit by bit. And we're presenting it to you in bite-sized portions so that you can not only take a good look at it, but you can digest it, you can understand it. We're, breaking down all of the legalese and putting it into regular, everyday folks' language to make sure that everyone in the Bahamas understands, well, first of all, what's in it, and second of all, what it means to you. And nobody better, I know, to help us do that than my guest for the past several Mondays on this Masterclass Monday, none other than Professor Sidney McArthur. Walter Thompson is back in the house, and once again, he is here to help us to break down the Constitution of the Bahamas. Professor, welcome back.
Thank you very much, Ms. Malcolm, and I appreciate being here. I will even say, even a little 5-year-old child would be able to tell grandmother and granddaddy what Professor Thompson had to say on the Constitution.
I like the sound of that. That sounds good to me.
It is most important that the people understand, and I take it very seriously, because there's so much misleading information in the public domain.
For sure.
And one must be very careful how one handles the document. It's a sacred document. It's a very valuable document. The salvation document for the Bahamian people. So we have to take it very, very seriously. At least I do.
Yes.
Every time.
Wonderful. Now, just in case you guys missed the first several weeks of this series, we started off with the preamble of the Constitution. We broke that down line by line. Our professor went into great detail explaining what that preamble is, what it stands for, what it means, etc. And now we're going to actually get into the meat of the Constitution, beginning with Chapter 1. Now, Chapter 1 covers two articles. In Chapter 1, Chapter 1 covers, First of all, the state, and second of all, the the Constitution is supreme law. And you may say y'all can get through that in 15 minutes, but I highly doubt it. I'm pretty sure it's going to take us the entire show just to get through Articles 1 and 2. If not, we'll go on to Chapter 2 once we're done. But I'm pretty sure we're going to cover this in great detail. The numbers to call in case you have a question, 3260271, 3260271, 3260271, 3260272, 3260272, 3260272, and the WhatsApp line. If you want to send us a text message, text messages only on the WhatsApp line is 801-0201, 801-0201. So let's break this down. Chapter 1, the state. Now, we all live next to a nation called the United States of America. For those who don't know, America is a continent. And USA are the United States of America, which is a nation within the continent of America. But they have within their name the United States of America. And I think it might be helpful for us to, first of all, determine what is a state when you're talking about nationhood as it relates to the Bahamas.
That is a good question, because the word state could mean different things in different nations. For example, the United States, they have the state of Florida, they have the state of California, they have the state of Utah, and so on.
Right.
However, as it applies to the Bahamas, the state refers to the nation. That's the entire nation, not a portion of it.
Right.
Okay, so that would apply to the Bahamas, but in other jurisdictions, it could mean different. And some people, they have what they call provinces, like in Canada.
Right.
And the state, of course, is the state of Canada. But the thing is that for the purposes of the Bahamas, the state refers to the entire country.
Okay.
Bahamas.
I will read exactly what it says in the Constitution. It says, Chapter 1, the Constitution, Article 1, the state. The Commonwealth of the Bahamas shall be, hold on, just minimized on me. Let me go back in on that. The Commonwealth of the Bahamas shall be, sorry about this, y'all. I'm looking at it on my phone and it just minimized on me. I think it just shall be the state. Let me confirm that. Okay, we got to get past. Okay, there you go. The Commonwealth of the Bahamas shall be a sovereign democratic state. The Commonwealth, and that's just one sentence.
That's right.
Article 1 is one sentence. The Commonwealth of the Bahamas shall be a sovereign democratic state. What is a sovereign democratic state? What does that mean?
That's a very interesting question. Now, that the sovereign refers to the fact that the Bahamas is, and the country has to make its own decisions because you're sovereign.
Right.
Right? You're not attached to somebody else to tell you this or tell you that. Meaning that once you make a determination, and that determination should be in the best interest of your people. In other words, whoever may be leading the state, which is the nation, at that time, meaning that those leaders ought to look out for the interests of its people, not some other persons. You're sovereign unto your people. In other words, we are to be benefiting as a sovereign state. So the leaders who have been elected, those who have the responsibility to govern the state, which is the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, They are supposed to look out for the interest of people. In other words, we should not have the government of the day acting in a manner where others outside who do not belong here benefit more than the people who are part of the state. That poses a big problem.
Already. We only on Article 1.
Yes.
And we already have a problem.
A big
According to
problem.
some Bahamians, we Bahamians aren't treated as the top of the totem pole in this country. According to many Bahamians, that's how they feel. Even if that's not the reality, that is certainly the perception.
But all we have to do is look at 56 years of history
Hmm.
from January 10, 1967, straight through to July 10, 1973, and right on up to the date.
Right.
All we have to do is look at our history and see whether today, in September, whether the Bahamians are first in their country. If we are not first, if we're not looked after properly by those who govern the state or those who are in charge of the country, and they are those who feel strongly that we are not, and I think there's an abundance of evidence to show whether we are or whether we are not.
Hmm.
Our history, the way we have been governing this place, proves conclusively whether Bahamians are first in their country or not.
Mm. Now, the thing is, Professor, there are some who say that we have such a problem with classism in this country that there are some Bahamians who are treated definitely as first class, but they are vastly the minority, whereas the majority of Bahamians do not enjoy the benefits of being treated first class in this country.
Let me speak from 50 years experience,
Hmm.
having dealt with the average Bahamian.
Okay.
And when it comes to agencies of the state, I can say for a fact, without any contradiction, because I've seen it over and over and over and over again, right on up to this day,
Hmm.
where the average Bahamian be turned around left, right, and center,
Frustrated.
frustrated.
Mhm.
You know, the Constitution says you're not supposed to be frustrated.
Exactly.
That's contrary to the Constitution.
Hmm.
This tremendous frustration on the people of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, that's not good for democracy.
Hmm.
So we have to fix that. So there is this tremendous frustration on the people where they're confused. They go to an agency of the state. In fact, I've had to call the heads of these agencies to get as much accurate and precise information so I could help those persons who come to me
Mhm.
for assistance.
Hmm.
Because sometimes when they come to me, they say, well, this is what they were told. I say, well, who told you that? Now, they don't remember the name, but someone in a particular department. I say, did you get the name? No, I didn't get the name. I say, well, what you need to do in future is get the name of the person
Hmm.
and their number and so on, so you will know who you can refer back to. But when I call a department, I would look for the person in charge of that department.
Hmm.
And you tend to get better information from them than from anybody else who works in there,
Right.
because they're just pushing papers
Hmm.
or just sitting at the desk.
Hmm.
And unfortunately, Ms. Malcolm, you have too many persons who are sitting out in the front who are supposed to relate to the public, but they're not able to answer properly questions that you ask in relation to that department.
Hmm.
And that is a major problem in our country, which has been systemic for more than 50 years. We have to fix that, because that is a very serious problem. It frustrates the average Bahamian. And when you have the majority of your people frustrated in these basic fundamental things, which are essential to their welfare, their livelihood, and their children, it's a big problem. So we have to fix that.
So now, this first article says the Commonwealth of the Bahamas shall be a sovereign democratic state. You've covered sovereignty. What does democratic state mean?
That's an interesting question. Democratic, democracy.
Hmm.
That means by the people, for the people, of the people.
Hmm.
I got a feedback.
No, that's me. That's my
Oh, that's it.
computer.
Okay, all right, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. The people ought to be involved, Ms. Malcolm, Yes, you have personalities who are running the country. That's fine.
Mm-hmm.
But when I look back over 50 years since independence, very little interaction between the Bahamian citizenry and those that run the country. That is a major problem we have to fix. Because once the citizenry is involved in helping to make decisions for their country, the country will run better.
Mm-hmm.
So democracy means the citizenry must be involved in the major decisions that have to be made for the welfare of the people of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And let me make this last point.
Okay.
If they are not involved, and I think I got evidence to prove some things about that when we go further into the show,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to see that there are a few individuals who have some ideas in their head about some other things which the vast majority of us know nothing about. And some signing has occurred, but there has been no discussion with the people. And those decisions that have been made would alter the lives of the Bahamian people, and they don't know what has happened to them.
That brings me to a question that is appearing on our Facebook page. This question was submitted by Charles. And the question is, just waiting for it to come up. I will certainly follow, but a question for later. With the AG and others making statements that they're going to use parliamentary route to change certain aspects of the present rule, seems to suggest that we are moving away from a written constitution. And if so, does that not put us on a slippery slope?
That's a good question. Let me answer it this way. You may have certain personalities within an administration that have some ideas in their head. See, a person can have an idea, an opinion, a suggestion, a comment. That's not law, you know. The Constitution allows for people to have their ideas and opinions without interference. But when it comes to making decisions for the Bahamian people, it must be based in law. You cannot arbitrarily change anything in the Constitution without a referendum. That's point number one. And we're going to come to that later in the show if we get to that Article 2. What I am saying is, you have people that say all kinds of things. See, I listen to people talk about the Constitution, and I'll just be nice with them today because I'm hearing some things that are not accurate, that are not precise, but they're just shooting their mouths off. They have a right to express an opinion, so I will never get into that. Now, when the opportunity presents itself and you're dealing with the Constitution, what the Constitution says about a particular issue, that's a different kettle of fish altogether. I have no opinion. That's what the law says. And I believe sometimes when political personalities, ministers in the government, represent the House of Assembly, make statements, people put more faith into those statements, even though those statements be way off base, because they themselves have not checked the Constitution. Is it constitutional, what the Attorney General said? Yes or no? That's what we have to ask ourselves. See, when something is unconstitutional, and I know it's unconstitutional, I know it ain't going nowhere. You can make as much noise as you feel like. That's going to blow away. But the point is, an administration could very well make a determination which is unconstitutional, and there's a remedy for that. I want the Bahamian people to understand that. Don't think, woe is me, because someone in an administration makes a decision or a series of comments off base, which have no constitutional basis, because the particular personality is in a position of prominence. So people say, well, if that particular individual said it, well, then that's what it is. That's not so. You have the judge sitting on the bench. Judges are not allowed to make law. You had a ruling just recently where the judge said, that's not the responsibility of the judiciary. We know who's supposed to make the laws. But then you can have a judgment made, an opinion by the particular court or that particular individual sitting on that bench. That comes out sometimes. But the point is, a judgment ought to be based on law, whether it's constitutional law or whether it's statute law.
Okay, I have another question from a Facebook viewer. This person says, should Bahamians amend the Constitution to be clearly in favor of the people and the greater good of the population as a whole?
Amending the Constitution, that is the job of the Bahamian people, yes. But the Bahamian people have to understand, what is it that the Bahamian people are saying they want to change in the Constitution? Now, it's going to be very difficult, and let me be honest with the people of the country. It is going to be very difficult at this point in stage, as I speak today, for the average Bahamian, or the majority of them, because you got 95+% of them don't know the document anyhow.
Right.
But what we have, and this is why I am so happy, that there is a tremendous interest in this document. People are looking at it and saying, boy, maybe we missed something. That's pressure from within, and that's pressure from without. Some things that have been happening in this country, Bahamians are beginning to look around and say, no. It can't go like this. And some pressure from the outside, no. It can't go like that. So now they're looking for sound answers. That's where the Constitution comes in. The Constitution, and let me repeat this, the Constitution is your salvation document. That's all you have. Don't mind what any personality in an administration say. That's not important. Mind, you should listen now. But I take it with a grain of salt when you're talking foolishness and nonsense. I don't pay much attention to that. But I can understand the agitation of the people. See, I know how they go. I know that they don't know. So I'm going to take my time as we go through these series to make sure that that child, 5 years old, could tell grandma and grandpa what Professor Thompson said on that particular point. This is very, very serious. And so I am happy to be here to help clarify the document.
What is the difference between a state and a nation?
Good. That's an excellent question. In our case, let me deal with the Bahamas first. In our case, state and nation are interchangeable, because the nation is the state and the state is the nation for the Bahamas. Now, like I say, in some other places where they got the state of Florida,
right,
state of California,
different system,
different system. But that is a nation with all those states in it. But for the sake of the Bahamas, I'll be dealing with the Constitution of the Bahamas, state and nation are interchangeable.
Okay. So would it be incorrect to say that Long Island or Andros is a state within the state or nation of the Bahamas? Our islands aren't considered states.
No, they're not.
Right. Why is that?
That's a good question. I hadn't thought of it. But it's an excellent question. Why is that? See, what has happened basically is, since the founding fathers established the Constitution, the Bahamian people and those who had the responsibility to govern didn't think it was important at the time to help the masses understand this most valuable document.
Okay.
Now, that's in our history. So we can't change that. We could only do from where we are now and going forward. Nothing was done with it for approximately 50 years. So it stayed means. Now, Bahamians can get vexed with you mess around with their Constitution. Even though they may not understand it, because they consider it to be sacred. It's very important to them, it's sacred. But what has to happen is we need to get them to understand what's in this document, so the change that they want to see should come from them. It should not come from a political personality who has some ulterior motive, because then that creates another problem. So once the Bahamian people, the average Bahamian, the vast majority of them, have an understanding of what the Constitution says, the constitutional rights, the constitutional freedoms, the constitutional privileges, they will be in a better position to say, Professor, you know, some things in there we need to change.
Mm.
Now, I've heard some people talk about Her Majesty the Queen, but that's a different kettle of fish altogether.
We can talk about that on
So
the other
that'd be-
side of the
that'd
break.
come another time, yeah.
We can come at that.
Yeah. So, you know, that is something we need to look at. And there's a lot of misunderstanding. And I'm here to make sure that when that misunderstanding comes up, we got to clarify it so that people can know
Hmm.
that some things that they have in their psyche, what they have been drilled into, been told over these 50 plus years,
Hmm.
ain't true. Never was true. But we'll fix that.
So Charles is asking, should we mandate civics be taught from primary schools well into high schools as part of the curriculum?
That's an excellent question. I'm going to tell people plainly, 56 years have passed. Nothing has happened to put it into schools. It ain't there. Now, you can wait for another 56 years. So what are you going to do? See, I ain't going to wait for no next 56 years. I started all the way back in 71.
Hmm.
I got an interest in studying law. But then I had to make up my mind, now what classification law you want to get into. And then it came to me clearly. When I heard about the Constitution, the Constitution being Supreme, I said, that's it. Because, Ms. Malcolm, if you understand your Constitution, all these other things where they got a statute law, they fall right in place. You will have a better understanding of how they ought to operate. That's why I studied the Constitution.
Okay. Now, historically, what was the name of our nation before July 10th, 1973?
Colony, Bahama Islands.
The colony of the Bahama Islands.
Yes.
So, like other territories like TCI, Turks and Caicos Island, which is still under British rule,
Right.
could we have been considered a nation at that time, or were we a colony? What's the difference between the two?
Okay, that's an excellent point. A colony is under somebody else.
Right.
Someone is in charge over you
Mm-hmm.
as a colony.
Right.
You're not a state in the sense like how it is we are now, state and nation.
Mm-hmm.
TCI, they were part of us. They are still a colony because they come under the British.
Right.
The British run their things. And of course, they have, like we had too, internal self-government. But even though we had internal self-government, that was what? Internal. All external matters were dealt by the British
Mm.
at that time. Then we came to the point where we decided we want to run our things,
Mm-hmm. Internal and external.
internal and external. So that's where independence came in,
Mm-hmm.
July the 10th, 1970.
And that changed our official name to
The Commonwealth of the Bahamas.
Commonwealth of the
And I want
Bahamas.
Bahamians to understand that that's the official name. The Commonwealth of the Bahamas. The Bahamians need to learn that. Don't just be flippant with our official name. Don't do that. You do a disservice to your nation. Because I was looking at it the other day and I had to tell myself, the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, there's a specific reason why it was named the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. We want to make the wealth of this place common.
I was just going to say the name of it itself is problematic when we look at our reality, because
Oh,
there ain't
yes,
nothing
it
common
is.
about the wealth in this nation.
The wealth that's in here is supposed to be for the benefit of the people. Remember what we learned in the preamble.
Yes.
So the thing is that the naming is appropriate. The naming is good. And I tell people, boy, we have a beautiful document, but you have to understand it. You have to see how it's applicable to us for our benefit as a people. So once the people begin to understand, you're going to see that we're going to benefit tremendously as a people.
Now, you have about 11 families in this country that really have all the wealth,
Yes.
about 11 of them. And they get very, very nervous when they start hearing people talking about commonwealth,
Yeah.
because, privilege isn't easily, ain't nobody can give up privilege, right? So you try to hold on to as much as you can, the privilege that you do have. And I think a part of the nervousness is that I've heard it argued that, well, we don't want to become a socialist state where we take my wealth that I've worked so hard over these many generations and just distribute it evenly to everybody, so everybody could have an equal amount. When you talk about commonwealth, That obviously is not to be confused with socialism, correct?
That is correct.
Explain the difference, please.
Let me just say this. Some things happen before January the 10th, 1967,
Mm-hmm.
which the incoming government never corrected. Some strange things happen. So
Mhm.
don't talk no foolishness about what you work for. Let's go right back. And of course, we could get into that if we have to.
Yeah.
But all I am saying is, don't talk foolishness and nonsense.
Yeah,
The history
because
is there.
skullduggery went on for your forefathers to gain what they
is
gained.
there,
Yes,
and
yes.
the things of the people were taken from them.
Absolutely, without
Okay?
a doubt.
So let's not talk foolishness and nonsense
Mhm.
and talk about what you work for.
Mhm.
So I'll just leave that right there for now. But the thing is, because it kind of boils you up. But the point is, the Bahamian people have to have the right to benefit and enjoy the precious things that God has put here for us, not for somebody else, not for a few personalities or a few families. Where are they going with that? It is for the benefit of the people. Now, we need to have people in place who understand how important that is, because in the Constitution,
Mhm.
that the masses must benefit from what God has put here. It's not for a few. It's not for a couple of people or the 11 families, as you mentioned.
Mhm.
All I am saying is we got to get it right. And the Bahamian people have the demand that that's what it must be. See, there are times when people just sit. They aren't going to move until you put some pressure on them, real pressure. And I believe going forward, Bahamians have to learn to understand. It is not going to be easy. People have been sitting on our things for too long now.
Mm.
So they believe now, this is their things. You
Mhm.
have to say, no, 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 no.
And they come to your jugular if you even talk about it.
Exactly. So the thing is that we have to understand our history. What went on before January the 10th, 1967? Because the government of the Bahamas did nothing about it. Right up to this very day. Some strange, I can put it this way, some strange, unusual things went down. We could go back and check the history to see who was involved in it.
Mm.
Because the documents are there. The evidence is there. So we got to go right back to the beginning.
Do you recall under the former administration, there was some talk about increasing taxes on the rich, and they got one letter from behind the gate. One
Yes, just one.
letter.
One letter.
And they rescinded with their tail between their leg, and you ain't hear no more about that.
That
And
is
then I
true.
do remember, I think it was the deputy leader at the time saying, it is not as easy as y'all think to tax the rich. They ain't got no problem taxing the poor,
That's something, eh?
but they
See,
scared
It
to
shows
touch
you,
the rich.
but I'm glad you put it that way, because
Mhm.
see, it shows you the psyche of the personality who said it, and also the psyche of those who have been given responsibility to government. Let me just say this to Bahamian people.
Mhm.
Bahamians, we need to understand and be very careful as to who we choose to run our national affairs. With that kind of thinking going on at the national level, we aren't going to make the kind of progress unless the Bahamian people do some unusual things to make sure that they get what is rightfully theirs and what they rightfully deserve. Sometimes, Ms. Malcolm, you're going to have to take unusual, see, I try to be nice today, unusual measures, which are constitutional. Let me make that point now.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to talk no foolishness.
Yeah,
in
we
my
ain't, want,
head.
we ain't want no coup or nothing like that.
No.
Mhm.
Which are constitutional. I believe in the Constitution. There's enormous power in there for us to get our things what we rightfully deserve. Because
Mhm.
someone did some things which were not good.
But you got to know what's in it in order to
Well,
take
exactly.
advantage.
You have to know what's in it and you know how to use it. See, I've watched this for the last 50 years since we became a nation. Ms. Malcolm, there are many things we need to correct in this country for the benefit of the masses.
Mhm.
Now, you have to work with the people. I told someone the other day in another meeting I was at, where they had this tremendous overflow of people. And they got all excited, and that's good. That's fine. That's all well and good. And then, of course, Some had some other ideas in their head. And I try to tell people, listen, man, when you have a momentum going, you keep building it up, building it up, building up. There's a way to always test the will of the Bahamian people, you know.
Mm.
See, I will know whether the people are with me or against me. I will know that. I got 50 years plus experience with this thing. I know the Bahamian people. I know their psyche. I know how they behave. I know they conduct themselves. The point is, some things, Mr. Malcolm, you cannot move until the people are ready to act on it.
Mm.
You don't push them. You don't fight with them on that. That's why when I have people talking things about the Constitution, which are totally wrong, I ain't gonna argue with you. But when the opportunity presents itself to me, I will correct it by the Constitution itself. See, when you ask me a constitutional question, I ain't giving no opinion. No opinion in that. I give you the facts as I know them to be. And you can run with that because it's accurate and precise. That's what we need in this country. Now, people like to give their opinions. Fine, I got no problem with that. An opinion is not law. And that's what people need to understand. Not because a particular personality in a particular office, in a particular ministry says something that's top dollar. No, sir. Pay off.
All right, we got to take a quick break. One thing I could say when Professor Sidney McArthur, Walter Thompson sit in this chair, this show does fly by. I mean, it just, you know, it goes so quickly. Huh?
I
know, and got so many more. I got so many more questions.
Questions in there,
yeah. So let's see what we can do. We got to take this break. Let's take a break. When we come back, we're going to continue. We are now in the actual meat of the Constitution of the Bahamas, Article 1, which says the Commonwealth of the Bahamas shall be a sovereign democratic state. Stay with us. This is GPS.
Understanding your microbiome, also known as your gut ecosystem, can change everything you thought you knew about nutrition, digestion, immunity, and metabolism. Keeping your gut ecosystem healthy and balanced is essential. Ultimate Microbiome by Longevity was specifically formulated to optimize this ecosystem. It provides the advanced support your gut needs through prebiotic, probiotic, and postbiotic supplementation. Our unique blend of probiotics includes Lactobacillus and Plantarum, healthy bacteria that can help prevent harmful bacteria from taking over your gut. Increasing your gut's population of beneficial bacteria creates a more balanced gut microbiome, which has been shown to aid in weight loss, skin health, sleep, mood, and may even help with seasonal allergies. Ultimate Microbiome also promotes the production of postbiotics. Postbiotics are key to help regulate your gastrointestinal health. To enhance digestion, Digizyme Multi-Enzyme Complex, a blend of 5 specific enzymes, has been added to Ultimate Microbiome. It can help break down food so your body can better absorb nutrients. Plus, we've added our proprietary I-26 hyperimmune egg powder to aid in the elimination of disease-causing gut bacteria and help your body balance its immune response. Ultimate Microbiome, the scientific, proprietary, and holistic approach to gut health that helps optimize your body's entire gut ecosystem. To learn more, contact your Longevity associate.
Welcome to Sunshine Auto, the hardest place on the planet for a rims, paint, and tires.
We are your auto superstore for rims, Lexani, Azaras, Trueform, Western, Lux, Fuel, Trackline, Tough, Rough Racing, Velocity, Mud, All-Terrain, and low-profile tires, cars, homes, and commercial window tinting. At Sunshine Auto, we put God first and customer is king.
Less is love.
To stay healthy, it's crucial to make sure you get the nutrition you need every day. But it's difficult to get all your recommended vitamins and minerals from food alone. Even in the United States, 94% of people are deficient in at least one nutrient. Beyond Tangy Tangerine 2.0 by Longevity is a simple, convenient, and affordable way to help your body get the essential nutrients it needs. It's an advanced plant-driven multivitamin mineral complex that contains certified organic whole foods, trace minerals, and antioxidants. BTT 2.0 supports your body's natural defense system with a proprietary blend of energy-boosting and body-loving nutrients, plus prebiotics, probiotics, amino acids, and enzymes that support digestion. With an unusually high ORAC score of 8,000, you get even more antioxidants to help combat free radicals that can cause damage to your cells. But to get the most benefit and value from any multivitamin, your body must be able to break down the nutrients so you can fully absorb them. Otherwise, they'll just pass through your system without doing any good. Beyond Tangy Tangerine 2.0 was specially formulated with synergizing cofactors to ensure you get maximum nutrient absorption. Beyond Tangy Tangerine 2.0 is the easiest way to give your body the balance and complete daily vitamin mineral supplement it needs for optimal support of your overall health. To learn more, contact your Longevity associate.
This portion of GPS is brought to you by Tiki Bikini Hut at Junkanoo Beach. Great food, cool tropical drinks, and family fun in the sun. Welcome back to GPS Global Paradigm Shift on Global 99.5 FM. Michelle Malcolm here, along with my guest, Professor Sidney McArthur, Walter Thompson. We are going through this masterclass on the Constitution of the Bahamas. The telephone number is to call 326-0271, 326-0271, 326-0272, 326-0272. And the WhatsApp line to send us a text message, not to call, text message is 801-0271, 801-0271. I want to read a couple of comments from our Facebook viewers. This one from Glenroy says, our Constitution should have and be taught from kindergarten. If we are independent from the British Westminster system, we should be charting our own course as a people, so the new Bahamas has to start now. Now, during the break, you and I were talking about, we've been at this now, next year will make 50 years, but nothing can happen before it's time.
That is correct.
And it just seems that there seems to be, I don't want to say renewed, but a piqued interest in the Constitution at this time,
there is.
which makes it the perfect time for us to really dive into this.
No, that is correct.
Yeah.
You're quite right. See, I've watched it for 50 years. I haven't seen it the way it is today, September of 2022. The interest in the Constitution is very high, even though 95% plus don't know the document. But we can work with that. That's why I'm here. The thing is that you have to have people who can teach the document. Now, who are those qualified teachers? You can't have people talking foolishness and nonsense, because that doesn't make any sense. Because a lot of misinformation has been going out to the public, which is never true. So you have to have persons who are qualified to teach the Constitution, because it's a serious document. That is your salvation document. That's the supreme law of the land. So you do not take that lightly. Every word in it, every phrase, every sentence is important. One word, one phrase could make the difference. So the thing is, we cannot take it lightly. It's the top law in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. Everything hinges on the Constitution. That's what people need to understand. But we tend to deal with some other things, which are not important. The Constitution is, let me just make the statement. The Constitution is always right. It is never, ever wrong. And I challenge anyone out there to contradict that. I've been saying that for a long time now. I hear a single contradiction on it. But if they believe it ain't true, come call the station and say so.
Right.
It is never wrong. It is always right. Now, some things in it, you mightn't agree with it, but then that's your view, and that's understandable. But you just have to understand what it says. It might be a misunderstanding that you have, or someone might have told you something that's not true, and you didn't know better. So he believed it. I was that way too myself. But I say, no. I remember some things, Ms. Malcolm, I had to go very deep study and re-study. I say, man, that ain't what it say. And so when I go public, I want to be as accurate and precise as I possibly could be. That is of extreme importance to the welfare of the nation.
Now, there are some who argue that the Bahamas is not really a sovereign state. How do you respond to that?
I knew that was coming up. Welcome. See, I'm just delighted to hear these questions coming up like that. See, but it shows the Bahamian people are thinking. See, when people make statements like that, you have to help them to understand what that means. You're now an independent nation. You have the evidence that you're independent. Some people say these things because of the way they saw political personalities behave in the past.
Mm.
You can't base the document on their behavior. Mm-hmm. Their behavior is out of line. You can put down an entire constitution because of the poor behavior of certain personalities who happen to get the opportunity to be in government. Is that what you're going to do? Famous, we can't do that. You don't throw this most valuable document on the ground because a particular political personality or some political personalities say some funny things that are not correct or do some things that are not correct.
Mm.
You can't build no nation like that. So I can understand the confusion because they themselves do not know the document. But we have to get to know it. We are a sovereign state. We are an independent state. We are a nation, lock, stock, and barrel. Now, the thing is, you and I as citizens have to make sure that Article 1 stays intact. So when people going off course, they say, no, my brother, that ain't right. But how can you tell the fella that ain't right when you don't know the document is out? Mm-hmm. You can't. So the purpose of these classes is to help people to understand when the representative goes off course. Mr. Representative, no, sir, that ain't right. See, I could tell my representative when he goes off course. I could tell him right off the top. No, sir, it don't go that way. Because, see, I know better. But there are thousands and scores of thousands out there who don't know. So we got to help them because I want them to know too. When they begin to know, it helps to change the face of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. Praise the Lord. The Commonwealth of the Bahamas. Because we need to get our benefits. Mm. We can't let people take our things from us and talk about it as theirs. No. That matter has to be corrected. It hasn't been corrected in more than 50 years.
I want to read a statement from a Facebook viewer, and then I want to get your response to this. Charles says, de jure and de facto, our sovereignty is dictated by the sponsors and the USA. Now, you know, there are some who argue that, you know, we ain't really a sovereign state and we ain't really a democratic state. Now, looking at that statement from Charles, how do you respond to that?
He said we're dictated by...
Our sovereignty is dictated by the sponsors and the USA.
Okay. Now, I'll answer it this way, and I think I know where he's trying to come from. Mm-hmm. There are certain weaknesses in our leaders. The way they behave, either they don't know the Constitution or don't understand the importance of the Constitution. Because we've had persons elected who know nothing about the Constitution. They just go by their own whim and fancy. That is why it's important that we be careful who we send to the House of Assembly. Mm. Now, if we don't look seriously at what we have, you send people there who know nothing about the Constitution, never studied the Constitution, have no idea whatsoever, but you're asking them to make laws to run the place and to make decisions. See, people could be swayed and carried away because they don't have a foundation to rest what they believe in. So they use their own fancy, their own manner of thinking. The Constitution is your strong base on which you make decisions for the benefit of your people. Now, if you have some people in government who are not doing that, that's a big problem. So it would look to him, and I can understand where he's coming from. I like these kind of questions because I understand where he's coming from. So when I hear things like that, we have to get the fella to understand, listen, we have to exercise caution and restraint when you are sending anyone to go to the House of Assembly, because from the House of Assembly, that's where you get your government.
Mm-hmm.
No ifs, ands, or buts about that. That's intertwined in the Constitution. You may be a member, and let me just say this while it's in my head. You may be a member of a political party or affiliated with a political party. That's one thing. You may participate in party elections and all that kind of thing. That's one thing.
Mm-hmm.
But then choosing a representative to send to the House of Assembly is another thing. Just like you work the BTC, but you're also members in Barnabas Church. You don't tell all the people in BTC come to St. Barnabas Church. Neither you tell St. Barnabas Church members come to work the BTC. But we don't get it mixed up, Ms. Malcolm. See, I draw illustrations like that because people could understand it. Ain't no mixing up there. They don't, St. Barnabas people don't go to church on Monday morning at 10 o'clock. You go there Monday morning, you'll be there by yourself, but the door would be closed. They go on to BTC to work so they can make some money, pay the tithes and offering to keep the church going. And that's good. But Miss Malcolm, we've been doing that for decades. I never got mixed up once. Never. So I draw illustrations like that so people could get the message because they could identify with that. Yes, I'm a member in Barnabas, but I work to BTC. And there's no mixing up with that. No mixing up whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
Why then, in the same community, we have all these different people, they cannot make, let me withdraw that. They're not coming together to make a sound decision and a good judgment on representation. Now, I have a lot to say about representation when we come to that part in the Constitution, because that has to be explained, Ms. Malcolm. People got to understand the difference between party affiliation and representation in the House of Assembly and being in the government.
That's a huge
one.
Yeah.
And I asked the Lord to help me to really simplify that. It's very difficult. And I can tell the baby, it's not easy. That portion right there, that is very, very difficult to explain to the Bahamian people. I cannot take it lightly. So I have to be careful how I present it to the Bahamian people. But we have to work on it. We have to work on it because it's important for our welfare as a nation. We have some serious challenges. The Prime Minister himself, we have some serious challenges. So he knows something. And I agree with him. So we have to look forward and prepare ourselves for what's coming up.
What should the Bahamian people do to make sure that Article 1 of this Constitution is fully enforced and protected?
Excellent question. I like that. The thing is, the Bahamian people won.
The Bahamian people what?
The Bahamian people won. Must put the necessary pressure. I'm answering the question you asked me, because this is the only way you can do it, Constitutionally now, because that's a constitutional answer to the question. What the Bahamian people have to make sure Article 1 is enforced. You have to put the pressure on your representative and the government as a whole. And they're acting contrary to the Constitution, including Article 1 or any other article, or any portion of an article. The only way we're going to know it is we have to know what's in it. Well, we deal with Article 1 today, so, we could work with that. But what I'm saying is, you're not going to be effective in helping to bring about the kind of changes, not adversarial changes. You ain't got to get vexed. You have a government in place, fine. The people elected them, fine. But the point is, we need proper governance in your country. You can't sit back and say everything is okay, because it isn't. Some people do some very foolish things. We as citizens of the country must keep tabs on 1, the representative, 2, the government of the Bahamas, and also, of course, the Senate. Well, the senator appointed me, but you got to talk to them too. Because they have a responsibility. The Senate has a responsibility, but we didn't get too much into that today. But the thing is that the Bahamian people have to know Article 1. And when the government is going contrary to Article 1, you say, no. The representative going to Article 1? No. We got to fix that. And you do it respectfully and let them know. That's how we have to do it. We, the Bahamian people, have to be the backbone to make sure our Constitution stands strong.
All right. So just for the record, I will read Article 1 again, and then we're going to take a quick commercial break. Half the show done gone, Professor.
Oh, wow.
All right. And we're just about to turn to the Supreme Law situation, which we know is going to be a lot of meat.
Oh, yes.
But just for the record, Article 1 of the Constitution says the Commonwealth of the Bahamas
Amen.
Shall be a sovereign and democratic state.
Amen.
Okay, so on the other side of this break, we're going to turn our attention to Article 2. And that one is talking about the supremacy of law as it relates to the Constitution of the Bahamas.
Yes.
You are listening to GPS, Global Paradigm Shift on Global 99.5 FM. Michelle Malcolm here with my guest, Professor Sidney McArthur, Walter Thompson, in a masterclass on the Constitution of the Bahamas. Stay with us.
Your body's immune system is under constant pressure from things like stress, lack of exercise, and toxins in the environment. It's crucial to be proactive and support your immune system with the nutrients it needs to function effectively. But it's often hard to get these nutrients from food alone. Introducing fast-acting Zinc Plus Immune Support by Longevity. Unlike zinc-only supplements, Zinc Plus Immune Support builds on the proven power of zinc and adds complementary nutrients to give your immune system extra support. Vitamin D helps balance the effects of zinc, while our proprietary blend of natural fruit and root extracts provides the extra help your immune system needs to work against daily stressors. And we've included Longevity's exclusive plant-derived minerals to give your body the minerals it needs, but can't get from food alone. And because Zinc Plus Immune Support is delivered in a great-tasting, sugar-free, berry-flavored lozenge, it encourages quicker absorption of all these nutrients into your body. Zinc Plus Immune Support. Zinc plus the extra support your body needs to promote a healthy immune system. To learn more, contact your Longevity associate.
Welcome to Sunshine Auto, the hardest place on the planet for rims, paints, and tires.
We are your auto superstore for rims, Lexani, Azaras, Trueform, Western, Lux, Fuel, Trackline, Tough, Rough Racing, Velocity, Mud, All-Terrain, and low-profile tires. Cars, homes, and commercial window tinting. At Sunshine Auto, we put God first and customer is king.
Blessed love.
It's gotten harder and harder to get your daily requirement of vital nutrients from food alone. Without additional vitamin and nutrient support, your health and well-being can suffer drastically. That's why Z-Radical was specifically formulated. It combines a blend of antioxidant-rich vitamins, minerals, and botanicals with the protective powers of fucoidan to help fill the gaps from lack of nutrients in your foods. The core of Z-Radical is fucoidan, a naturally occurring polysaccharide that helps stimulate immune reaction, protecting you against inflammation and oxidative stress. We harvest this powerful mineral-rich nutrient from brown seaweed, harvested only from the world's most pristine ocean waters to ensure the purest quality. It's then extracted using cold process technology to ensure maximum levels of bioavailability. Then we add essential vitamins that help to protect your cardiovascular and nervous systems and are crucial for optimal immune and neurological function. Z-Radical also includes a proprietary blend of delicious antioxidant-rich fruits and berries. This great-tasting combination helps your body combat free radical imbalances that can contribute to a variety of degenerative conditions like arthritis and heart disease. Z-Radical. Experience the power of fucoidan with antioxidant-rich berries, 8 essential vitamins, and more to provide you with potent health benefits. To learn more, contact your Longevity associate.
Welcome back to GPS Global Paradigm Shift on Global 99.5 FM. Michelle Malcolm in your company, along with Professor Sidney McArthur, Walter Thompson, who is conducting a master class on the Constitution of the Bahamas. The telephone numbers to call 3260271, 3260271, 3260272, 3260272. The WhatsApp line for text messages only is 801-0271, 801-0271. Okay, I want to read Article 2. We spent a whole hour just on Article 1. Remember now, Chapter 1 of the Constitution only has 2 articles, Article 1 and 2. So now we're turning our attention to Article 2. And I will read it from the Constitution itself. It says, "This Constitution is the supreme law of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, and subject to the provisions of this Constitution. If any other law is inconsistent with this Constitution shall prevail, and the other law shall, to the extent of the inconsistency, be void." I will read that again, just for the sake of clarity. This Constitution is the supreme law of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, and subject to the provisions of this Constitution, if any other law is inconsistent with this Constitution shall prevail, and the other law, to the extent of the inconsistency, be void. Now, I want us to break this down. I think that's fairly simple, but just we want to make sure everybody understands. Excuse me. So, what is the meaning, excuse me, of the word supreme?
The word supreme means the highest in law, the highest law in the land. In other words, there's no law above the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Bahamas. All laws fall under the Constitution of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas.
Mm-hmm.
The point is that I look at every law in light of the Constitution. That's what you base it on. Statute law and other laws. The Constitution is the highest. It's final. It is always right. It is never wrong. Supreme, the highest in the land.
So we have some really good questions coming in on YouTube. On Facebook, as it relates to the supremacy. Charles is asking a provocative question. Law is ever changing, or the interpretation is. So how can we say that law is immutable? And if it underpins the Constitution, then is that too changeable?
Repeat that for me again. I thought I heard what he said, but I want to make sure that I answer it properly.
It says a provocative question. Law is ever changing, or the interpretation is. So how can we say that law is immutable? And if it underpins the Constitution, then is that too changeable?
Notice he said 2 different things in there. He talked about law and interpretation of law.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? It is duty of the courts to interpret the law. And whenever the court makes a determination, it should be based on the law.
Mm-hmm.
It is true that statute laws keep changing. The constitutional laws do not change like that. And I think the person who sent the information should need to understand that.
Mm.
Our Constitution has remained consistent the way it has been from its inception, with 1 or 2 things I think had to do with the Attorney General's office. So let me come to that, another kettle of fish. But be it as it may, the Constitution, the supreme law, has been intact, even though you've had many other laws passed and then amended, and then they amend that pass and amend it again, and that kind of thing. That's the way it has been with statute law. But we'll see. What I got. People need to understand is those things that have been happening. This is why you got to watch what they do in that House of Assembly. You know, because I am convinced with too many people, they don't understand the Constitution. That's why you see all kind of mixing up. Because see, when you make a statute law, it should be based on the supreme law. That's not always the case. Yes, law is interchangeable. I'm not going to dispute that. Interpretation, I guess, depends on who is making the interpretation. But it is the duty of the judiciary to interpret the law according to the supreme law. Now, you have people that make an opinion and call it an interpretation. And I get very upset when that is done because it could be contrary to the Constitution, contrary to law. It's just someone's opinion, idea, suggestion, comment. Just like anyone else who has an opinion, idea, suggestion, comment. The Constitution allows for that. But when it comes to dealing with the law, particularly people who are supposed to be trained in the law, I expect better of you. But if a trained personality comes talking foolishness and nonsense, I rebut that right away. Because I should not have to deal with that. I should not expect that. Now, for someone who doesn't know, but that's a different thing altogether. Law will keep changing because you will see in our system here, they've got all kind of amendments to this thing and that thing and the next thing. Now, some things they amend, still the 1871 law from 1870, dealing with the marriage. They ain't dealing with that. But the point is, we ain't put no pressure on them. See all this problem we have in this country with these marriages? We've done nothing about it. So what is important to Bahamian people is we have to tell our representatives, listen, man, this thing needs to change. But if we don't tell them, it stays right there for decades. When it comes to the constitutional law, we haven't been looking at changes in society. Some people come in there with some strange ideas in their head and trying to take advantage of us. And we have done nothing as a nation to deal with these things that confront us. The Constitution is there, and we have a responsibility as citizens to deal with it, but we haven't done it, but we could start today.
Amos Miller is on Facebook, and I want to take a moment to go over some of his comments because he's talking about well, let me just read it. It says, the General Assembly proclaims this Universal Declaration of Human Rights as a common standard of achievement for all peoples and nations to the end that every individual and every organ of society, keeping this declaration constantly in mind, shall strive by teaching and education to promote respect for these rights and freedoms and by progressive measures, national and international, to secure the universal and effective recognition and observance. His comments got caught up. It was too long, but he continues a little later, and he says, if your guest doesn't even recognize the supreme universal law, he's talking about the United Nations human rights.
Yes.
How does he expect small nations' constitutions not to fail? Whereas disregard and contempt for human rights have resulted in barbarous acts which have outraged the conscience of mankind, and the advent of a world in which human beings shall enjoy freedom of speech and belief and freedom from fear and want has been proclaimed as the highest aspiration of the common people. This is the foundation. This is the foundation. I'm not sure what he meant to say there. Most independent nation after 1948. I think it was a typo there.
Yes,
and so he asked the question, It is essential, if man is not to be compelled to have recourse as a last resort to rebellion against tyranny and oppression, that human rights should be protected by the rule of law. Without these words being written, we would have no constitution as of 1948. I know that's a mouthful.
Yeah,
but how do you respond to that?
Yeah, I know that Amos has this thing about the Declaration of Human Rights.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to say anything against that.
Mm-hmm.
I understand where he's coming from.
Mm-hmm.
But each nation has its constitution. And sometimes some things that some other people write, right, it can be confusing to people in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. We have to look at what we have, what is supreme in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. And while I respect the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, I don't have a problem with that. But for the sake of our country, our people need to know our own constitution, just like the people in the United States have to know their constitution. What is in the best interest of the Bahamian people? That's what we need to be concerned about. We have human rights right in our own constitution. All of them are right there.
Mm-hmm.
All those things he's talking about, they're right there in the... See, it has nothing to do with you being a small nation. Oh, we're small. But that's nothing to do with it. We're one nation. The United States is a nation. They have more people than us, 330 million plus. We're supposed to have 200 and something thousand or 300 something thousand.
Mm-hmm.
All I'm saying is it has nothing to do whether you're small or big, what size you are. The Constitution that we have is supreme law. And we can get to that other section, which you read in there, but we ain't reached there yet.
Mm-hmm.
But all I'm saying is we have to look at what we have here to govern us here in the Bahamas. We should not get distracted. The unfortunate thing someone told me the other day, they're just tired of people coming into the Bahamas and our leaders are just picking from this one, picking from that one. What does one say, that one say, the next one say? Those are distractions.
Mm.
While there may be some merit in what some of the things they say, you're going to find in certain instances, a lot of those things don't even apply to the Bahamian people because we have advanced so far ahead when it comes to the rights of men and women in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas that we, you know something, Ms. Malcolm, we don't even look at our own history where we've had peaceful changes in the administration of this country from 1729 right up to now.
Mm-hmm.
I've never heard any of them Commonwealth people mention that. It goes under the radar because, see, that ain't no violence. And it doesn't make them excited. They talk all that. We had the most peaceful election in 2021. Extremely peaceful.
Mm-hmm.
Did they emphasize that? See, Bahamians got to wake up, man. We have something going that most nations, if not the others, don't have at all. We've had peaceful changes, one administration after another, without violence. We need to teach that. We need to teach that to our people and cause them to understand how important it is. That came from the Bahamian people. That didn't come from them people outside.
Mm-hmm.
It's because of the nature of our people, because of the God fact in the Bahamian people. Who we are and what we are cause us to behave that way. I watched the last election. We had it extremely peaceful. And that's the way we want it to be and continue to be. And there are some other things we could work on.
Mm-hmm.
We have to take advantage of that peace and tranquility that these other people are enjoying and making all kinds of money. So we can make some money. We can't just let them enjoy it and we aren't going anywhere. That doesn't make any sense. So I understand Amos, that is Universal Declaration of Human Rights. I can't knock him for that. He strongly believes in that. I believe in it too. But those things are already entrenched, I won't say all of them,
mm-hmm.
but some of them, in our Constitution. We got to deal with our Constitution here in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. That's what's important.
Okay, so Charles says, I support what he's saying. All those are opinion pieces to which must be lockstep with the sovereign laws of the country.
Let me just repeat that again for me.
It
I
says-
heard the last part, but the first part.
He says, I support what he's saying. All those are opinion pieces to which must be lockstep with the sovereign laws of the country.
Okay.
I'm not sure what he means by that. So Miko is asking the question, doesn't the UDHR create the gray areas and loopholes in our Constitution that are used to facilitate a corrupt system?
What he
The United Nations human rights. They're asking, does it create gray areas and loopholes in our Constitution that are used to facilitate a corrupt system? The democratic human rights that Amos was referring to.
I am not sure, but I know that you have. See, here's the problem. We get ourselves mixed up with ideas from other people outside of this country who are trying to tell us what to do. We have to stand as a sovereign, democratic state. We have to stand our ground. Stop allowing people to keep pushing things on us, because a lot of those things we'd have to accept. We could say, no, we're not going with that. Or if it's to our advantage, we say, yes, we'll go with it. We have to make decisions. We don't have to accept everything from the United Nations
Universal Declaration of Human Rights, yeah.
Yeah, the human rights people.
Mm-hmm.
Because they tell us some things that are not to our advantage and to our benefit. So why should we accept it?
Mm.
You see, so we have to be very careful that we look at what they may be saying, examine what they're saying, just like the CEDAW thing. Babies don't know nothing about no CEDAW convention.
Mm-hmm.
And I even heard for the first time the other day, some other conventions they sign on to. I'm just hearing it for the first time. I've been around as young as I am. Never heard of them before. But I have a look at them. Because we can come to that section, I'll wait till you come to it.
Mm-hmm.
Keep it that part.
All right. Jason, is that a caller for the show? No. Okay. All right. The telephone numbers to call 3260271, 3260271, 3260272, 3260272, and the WhatsApp line 8010271, 8010271. Okay, so let's look back at what the Constitution actually says in Article 2. What is meant by the term subject to the provisions of this Constitution, and also the term any other law?
Good. Subject to the provisions of the Constitution.
Mm-hmm.
That is what the Constitution says, being the supreme law. Any other law. See, that phrase is extremely important. That's why I waited till you got to it. If any other law, international law, CEDAW law, human rights law, any other law, that's in your Constitution. Any other law is inconsistent. That is extremely important. See, people got to learn to see these key phrases.
Mm.
It didn't say some, you know. Any other. And they got plenty out there. All kinds of things they write.
Mm-hmm.
But if we fill our minds with all this stuff coming from this one, coming from that one, coming from the next one, and then we ignore our own Constitution, that's why there's so much confusion in this place.
Mm.
And then people are wondering, well, what kind of nation are we? When our own Constitution tells us the qualities we ought to have as a nation.
Mm.
We can't, Ms. Malcolm, we can't keep exposing ourselves to what the Americans say, what the Canadians say, what the British say, what this one say, what that one say. This convention say this, that convention say that. That's a ball of confusion. Now, I'm not saying we should not analyze what they say. But in a lot of cases, with Malcolm, the Bahamian people know nothing about these conventions. They know nothing about these things that have been signed, known to a few individuals
Mm-hmm.
who signed, as they say, on behalf of the Bahamian people. How you could sign something new and consult the Bahamian people? That's not the way it should be done. If there is any, let me just put this out there for the Bahamians to think about. If there is a proposed convention, before anything is signed, it should be brought to the people of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas to see whether they agree with it. Because I hear some strange things about things that happen in some other country. I say, well, that don't apply here. How we sign on to something like that? Do the people who do the signing, do they understand Article 2? That's why it takes persons like myself and others to make sure that the government of the Bahamas stays in line with our Constitution. Any other law is inconsistent, which means that law goes contrary, either in part or in full. Because the entire thing could be inconsistent. A portion of it could be inconsistent. 3/4 of it could be inconsistent. That which is inconsistent is void, meaning it's nothing. It's empty. It's futile. It has no value. It has no purpose. Do all these understand that? I don't like people talking foolishness in my ear. Do they understand what the word void means? It means nothing. It's empty. It's futile. It's waste.
So what happens when something becomes void?
It is non-effect. It has no value. See, that's what people need to understand. So you're looking at all these things that people are putting on you. Say you got to do this. The convention say you must do that. And then the Constitution tells you any other law or any other convention or any other thing that's out there. That's a key phrase in our Constitution, and people should never forget it. Well, I can stand on that because I know I will always be right. And let me just say this. So I've heard some people talk about the Constitution of the Bahamas being inconsistent. That's utter nonsense and foolishness. The other law or the other convention, whatever they call it, that could be inconsistent. The Constitution cannot be inconsistent to that. That is supposed to conform to it, or if they ain't got nothing in there that works in our benefit, we say, no, we don't want none of that. You keep that to yourself. The inconsistency comes from outside or any other law made in the House of Assembly. You have plenty of laws they make in the House which are inconsistent. I can grab a couple of them recent ones they passed and show the Bahamian people the inconsistency in the statute laws that just went through Parliament the other day. So what are they doing? See, that bothers me because here you got a bunch of people who don't know the Constitution, don't understand Article 2. That's why it takes the Bahamian people to put the kind of pressure on representation. That's why representation is so important. And on the government of the Bahamas to make sure that they walk in line with this document. That's our purpose.
So is it possible for any other law to be inconsistent with our Constitution in whole or in part?
Yes.
Explain, please.
See, the thing is, with some of these things that are out there, that some other people have in some other parts of the world, and the persons who are sent to represent the Bahamas, they ought to know what our Constitution says before you pen anything. And in too many instances, the things that have been signed on to causes problems for us. And then you have elected leaders are saying, well, this would be signed on to. Then you have some other pressure groups are saying, this would be signed on to. And the Constitution is saying, what you sign on to is inconsistent with the Constitution. It's void. It's worthless. It means nothing. So why you signed it?
So, but that raises the question, though, Professor, because, okay, it may be in contrary, It may be contrary to what our Constitution says, but yet our leaders go and they sign these agreements, and
Yes.
which sort of binds the nation to a certain degree because they sign on these declarations, etc. So that puts us, would you say that puts the country in an awkward position?
Of course, very awkward. And that's why we're in the mess we're in today.
Mm-hmm.
Because this been going on for 56 years. 56 years by persons who've been ignoring the Constitution. They will write on pieces of paper certain things they want to achieve. Say, this is what we want to achieve. But they never check the Constitution, which is the governing document of this country. So how could you be governing and you ignore the very blueprint, the very supreme law of the land, and then you go signing all these strange things? So it puts the country in an awkward position. Yes, I agree with that. That is why the Bahamian people, see why it's so important that the Bahamian people participate in the governance of this country? You just can't leave it to them, persons in the House of Assembly and the Senate. They could be dead wrong. They could be wrongly influenced. And then it creates all kinds of problems for the Bahamian people. Then you wonder why we have this problem, why we have that problem. Because they're saying you sign on to it. And the Constitution is saying, no, that's void. Because it's contrary to the Constitution. See, that puts us in an awkward position.
Mm-hmm.
Because the leaders themselves don't seem to understand the importance of Article 2 of the Constitution. You don't sign anything that's inconsistent with the Constitution. You put the country in an awkward position. We're in it now. And so you have this back and forth, and we're wasting a lot of valuable time and money trying to get out of this, trying to get out of that. And then others are coming and saying, but you signed it. You even had one who said, now they want us to have another referendum. You see, they're getting into our business. They're telling us what they want to do, but not a single word from them as to how peaceful the 2021 election was. Not a word. See, that doesn't square with them. So they just ignore it. Are we going to ignore it too? It's been going on from 1729 right on up to now. But it ain't happened in their country. There's all kind of ruckus and people killing and knocking down one another. Then the fella get not elected. He ain't want to move out. Oh, in the Bahamas, you must say, despite the weaknesses of our political leaders, when they lose, they got enough sense to come out peacefully.
They ain't trying to incite no insurrection.
And that's good. See, that's the positive side about the governance in this country. That's good. Well, let's keep that. But the group that was here said they making recommendations. They ain't saying nothing about that. Not a single word. See, I just watched them closely enough. So we have to be very careful of what people are trying to shove down our throats and tell us we must do this. See, when a referendum is held, that's final. I never heard the current administration complaining about the 32 seats they got in the last election. They took the 32 seats. They ain't say, you know, some maybe people made a mistake. Maybe elected made a mistake. We ain't supposed to have 32. Maybe the other side's supposed to have 32. We supposed to have 7. But they run with it. You hear them complaining about that. But you got someone now trying to tell the Bahamian people, you ain't got enough sense to do some other things, which they have the constitutional right to do. I find that to be extremely offensive. And that is not good. The Bahamian people have to stand up and say, no, we ain't going with that. You took the results of the general election of 2021. You ain't saying nothing about that. You run with that. You like that. You can't have your cake and eat it too. It doesn't work that way. The Constitution is good for that, but when it comes to other things, the Constitution ain't no good. You got to decide. You can make a decision with Bahamian people. That's utter nonsense and foolishness.
I have a question that is being posed by one of our Facebook viewers. Where did it go? There it is. It says, Hasheen is asking the question, why isn't there within the Constitution an automatic law stopping or making it impossible for any government to sign agreements without we, the Bahamian people, agreeing to it?
That's a good point.
It's not very practical, though. And I'll tell you
No,
why.
it's not. Yeah, you have a valid point there. I have to agree with that.
Because when you are attending those meetings, you have a series of days in which you have the talks about what it is that you as a collective want to see.
Yes.
And the whole viewpoint is at the end of those days of talks, you all come together to sign an agreement.
Yes.
So now for you to say, well, in order for me to sign this agreement, I have to take this back to my people and then get them to agree and then come back and sign, it doesn't quite work that way.
The best thing for the government of the Bahamas to do, if it is a proposed arrangement or a proposed agreement, you don't sign nothing. You bring that to the Bahamian people and let the Bahamian people make a determination on it before you go back to them. Because see, the point is, right now we're in a predicament with all these strange things that have been signed. I hear all kinds of things been signed. I even have one of the some other things done by one of the newer departments that they create. Say they sign an agreement, but the first time I'm hearing about it. But the point is, Mr. Malcolm, if we keep operating that way in the country, it is not going to be to the benefit of the Bahamian people. You don't just sign because you say it looks good, but you never check with the Bahamian. Who are you signing on behalf? Of yourself or the Bahamian people? Well, then the Bahamian people ought to have an idea as to what's going on. At least get their views on it before anything is signed. You don't get rushing and sign. Then they try to hold a hammer over your head, say, yes, you sign it. You signed it some years ago and you ain't do nothing with it. So you're dictating to us. And it puts us in a very difficult position because the government of the Bahamas, through these personalities, whoever they send to sit at the table, obviously they don't know the Constitution. And that poses a problem. You're signing things because in your eyes it looks good. Constitutionally it's not. But yet you sign it and say this is what the Bahamas is supposed to deal with. And so it creates problems for the country as we have now. And there have been too many of them that have signed like that. But we have to correct it. The Bahamian people have to tell the representative, they have to tell the government, no, we have to change it. See, agreements could be changed, you know. That's not ironclad like the Constitution. The Constitution is ironclad. Anything else could change. That's why it says, if any other law is inconsistent, to the extent that it goes contrary to the Constitution, that portion of it is void. It's empty, futile, has no meaning, has no purpose.
So let me ask you this. When you consider all of these external pressures that may or may not be in agreement with the Constitution of the Bahamas, how much faith can Bahamians put into our supreme law?
That's a good question. The thing is, the Bahamian people have to realize that we have to deal with the government of the Bahamas because they're the ones who are sending people out to sign these things. We're going to have to let our voices be heard that if there is any proposed agreement, let us bring it to the Bahamian people. Let's discuss it here before anything is signed so we can get a consensus or an understanding from the Bahamian people as to how we should proceed. But then when you sign it, because only a couple of people know these things, you know, the majority of people don't know or have no inkling, have no understanding. My sister did Temujin and Monroe Cedar Convention. Never heard of it before. And she's very educated. All I'm saying is we're making mistakes which hurt the Bahamian nation. And we shouldn't be operating like that. We have to cause the government of the Bahamas to that's why people got to learn to understand governance doesn't just stop after an election. That's when the real fire starts. But the point is, we have to be on those persons, the representatives in the government, to make sure that they are acting in our best interest. We can't go to sleep on that.
Mm-hmm.
Because all kinds of strange things are happening. And then, well, we get all tangled up. We know how we get tangled up. But it has happened. Now, there are a lot of things that need to be untangled. It's going to take the Bahamian people putting the right pressure in the right places and demanding. So we could put pressure on the government for them to change it. But if we just sit back and complain and do nothing about it, that's why I say Article 24.1, which we haven't reached here yet, is the power that gives the Bahamian people a right to act in their best interest, not just during an election. Anytime, anywhere, any place, the need arises. And Bahamians need to understand that. But it requires work. It requires an organized movement by the Bahamian people to make sure that their interest is protected. But if we don't do that, if we don't come to see the importance of it, that's why I tell people, get to know your neighbors. Live right on your same street, living right next door to you. But all they want to do is cuss out one another. So you don't have no proper relationship. And if we keep living like that, Miss Malcolm, we aren't going to ever get anywhere. We go through the next 56 years and we have the same old problems again. Just like the crime. We talk about it on the radio. And unfortunately, we had an incident in North Abaco with a prominent athlete that died. That's where I reside.
Very.
So the thing is, what are we going to do about it now? What about possible solutions? We got to look at possible solutions. For that to happen, it takes the collective will of a people to bring change. One person can't do it. It takes enough of us to see the wisdom of making sure that these articles in this Constitution are followed by the government of the Bahamas. That's very important.
All right. You believe only 20 minutes left in the show?
The time's gone.
We got to take a quick break. And then when we come back, we're going to continue this masterclass on the Constitution, breaking it down for you, bite-sized pieces, so that you know what is in there. Because, if you don't know what's in there, then how you going to know how to demand that it be followed? So stay with us. This is GPS. We'll be back.
Understanding your microbiome, also known as your gut ecosystem, can change everything you thought you knew about nutrition, digestion, immunity, and metabolism. Keeping your gut ecosystem healthy and balanced is essential. Ultimate Microbiome by Longevity was specifically formulated to optimize this ecosystem. It provides the advanced support your gut needs through prebiotic, probiotic, and postbiotic supplementation. Our unique blend of probiotics includes Lactobacillus and Plantarum, healthy bacteria that can help prevent harmful bacteria from taking over your gut. Increasing your gut's population of beneficial bacteria creates a more balanced gut microbiome, which has been shown to aid in weight loss, skin health, sleep, mood, and may even help with seasonal allergies. Ultimate Microbiome also promotes the production of postbiotics. Postbiotics are key to help regulate your gastrointestinal health. To enhance digestion, Digizyme Multi-Enzyme Complex, a blend of 5 specific enzymes, has been added to Ultimate Microbiome. It can help break down food so your body can better absorb nutrients. Plus, we've added our proprietary I-26 hyperimmune egg powder to aid in the elimination of disease-causing gut bacteria and help your body balance its immune response. Ultimate Microbiome, the scientific, proprietary, and holistic approach to gut health that helps optimize your body's entire gut ecosystem. To learn more, contact your Longevity associate.
Welcome to Sunshine
We are your auto superstore for rims, Lexani, Azaras, Trueform, Western, Lux, Fuel, Trackline, Tough, Rough Racing, Velocity, Mud, All-Terrain, and low-profile tires, cars, homes, and commercial window tinting. At Sunshine Auto, we put God first and customer is king.
Less is love.
To stay healthy, it's crucial to make sure you get the nutrition you need every day. But it's difficult to get all your recommended vitamins and minerals from food alone. Even in the United States, 94% of people are deficient in at least one nutrient. Beyond Tangy Tangerine 2.0 by Youngevity is a simple, convenient, and affordable way to help your body get the essential nutrients it needs. It's an advanced plant-driven multivitamin mineral complex that contains certified organic whole foods, trace minerals, and antioxidants. BTT 2.0 supports your body's natural defense system with a proprietary blend of energy-boosting and body-loving nutrients, plus prebiotics, probiotics, amino acids, and enzymes that support digestion. With an unusually high ORAC score of 8,000, you get even more antioxidants to help combat free radicals that can cause damage to your cells. But to get the most benefit and value from any multivitamin, your body must be able to break down the nutrients so you can fully absorb them. Otherwise, they'll just pass through your system without doing any good. Beyond Tangy Tangerine 2.0 was specially formulated with synergizing cofactors to ensure you get maximum nutrient absorption. Beyond Tangy Tangerine 2.0 is the easiest way to give your body the balance and complete daily vitamin mineral supplement it needs for optimal support of your overall health. To learn more, contact your Youngevity associate.
This portion of GPS is brought to you by Tiki Bikini Hut at Junkanoo Beach. Great food, cool tropical drinks, and family fun in the sun. Welcome back to GPS Global Paradigm Shift on Global 99.5 FM. Michelle Malcolm here, along with my guest, Professor Sidney McArthur Walter Thompson. We're talking about the Constitution in this masterclass and a series of shows on the Constitution. The telephone numbers to call: 3260271, 3260271, 3260272, 3260272, and the WhatsApp line for text messages only is 8010271, 8010271. Now, prior to the break, you talked about the CEDAW Convention.
Yes.
And it was reported by the Commonwealth group that was in the Bahamas for our 2021 general election that our Constitution was not consistent with the CEDAW Convention, and they recommended that the Bahamas have another referendum as a result. Is something missing in that statement?
Plenty missing in that. I'll tell you what's missing.
Please do.
The observation about the Constitution being inconsistent with CEDAW, that's wrong, right off the top.
Also,
the Constitution is always right. It is never, ever wrong. The CEDAW Convention could be wrong, but not the Constitution. That's the difference between the Constitution of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas and any other law. Now, if they got a problem with that, that's their problem. That ain't my problem. That's what our Constitution says. Any other law, CEDAW law, human rights law, United Nations human rights grouping and all that, they got all kinds of things out there. So when they went off like that, I knew, because I heard the comments that were made. I said, no. This Constitution is supreme, not the CEDAW Convention. Ain't nothing supreme about that. This is the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. We got to understand that. This applies to our territory. You want to bring something that's foreign in here and is inconsistent with our Constitution, it means nothing. Our Constitution says that. It's void, it's empty, it's futile, it's weightless, it's no good. Our leaders need to understand how serious that is. But when we keep dabbling into these things, from the Canadians, from the Americans, from the Japanese, you see them just come in and ask us anything. When they're ready to do their thing, they do it. So how come we don't even follow? what our Constitution says. We always tagging on to something what somebody else says. That just gets me very angry. And I have to tune you out because that's not right. So when the group, the Commonwealth group that was looking over the election, not a single word was said about the peace and tranquility of that election. Ms. Malcolm, I even was surprised myself how quiet it was. Tremendously quiet. Didn't hear no car horns. People wasn't in the street making no noise.
Mm-hmm.
But people were moving around. I know that when I went out to cast my vote. The atmosphere was beautiful. And it really topped the quietness, and the peace and tranquility should tell you a lot about the makeup of the Bahamian people in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. That's a good quality. But we have to emphasize it. Don't wait for no Commonwealth group to do it. They'll never do it because it doesn't happen in their country. Anything that's positive. And I looked at that and I say, how come they ain't say nothing about that? But they talk about some other things being none of their business. The people already made a determination. They don't have to tell us about having no next referendum. Why should we do that? Just because you say so? Just because you want to achieve an objective? Obviously, they have a certain objective that they want to achieve, not the will of the Bahamian people. That's why I always say, when we have these elections, the fellow win, and they win big, or that party wins big, they're happy. Oh, the Bahamian people did well. And then the ratings of the Prime Minister, 70% in one poll, the main poll. They like those kind of things. But that's only a poll. That's not constitutional. That's a poll. You have a right to your opinion, so I'm not going to knock that. But the opinion polls say that's what it is. Well, then fine. And then I think it's 64 to 68% for the government. So I'm saying that that's positive. They like that. They grab onto it. Now, what's going to happen when the polls change? Are they going to be happy to accept? See, you can't. At one time, you say it's okay, and the next time, you say it's not.
That reminds
because you
me-
disagree with it.
That reminds me of outgo that the last president of the United States, for instance.
Yes.
He only accepts things when it's in his favor.
When it's in his favor.
If it ain't in his favor, it can't be right.
Exactly. And when you start thinking like that, see, when I look at the Constitution, even though I may have my personal views, I don't express my personal views when I come on here, when it comes to the Constitution. I'm entitled to them, but that's not going to help the Bahamian people. When I come here, I got to say what the law says.
Right.
And that's what's important. But the Constitution allows you to have those views. But the point is, we have things that are working well in this country because of the nature of the Bahamian people. That God factor is a key factor why we've been having election after election after election. Very peaceful, very quiet elections. And this latest one, that was so quiet and so peaceful, I was so surprised. But that's a good thing, and Bahamians need to understand that, accentuate that, tell them talk that.
I want to read a comment from Facebook. So Miko says Bahamians need to realize how this system values them. They are not seen a family unit. We are in servitude, cheap labor. As an incentive for investors, they sell whatever's available, even the foundation, energy, water, telecommunication, hotels. Food is all provided by a foreign entity.
Yes.
We are heavily dependent on loans, almost 13 billion in debt. We do not manufacture or produce anything domestically or globally. So where is this going to take us?
I like that comment. Now, I will say this. This is why, see, that has been happening for 56 years. because we did not put the kind of pressure in the right places. We allowed ourselves to go into this big debt. Some 18 billion it is now?
Almost.
Almost 18 billion. That is very difficult for the Bahamian people to carry. And it keeps piling up all the time. That's going to make it difficult economically for us as a people. We have to say things to our leaders when they're carrying us down the wrong path. And we're going to have to be very strong on this. We have to tell them, do it respectfully. You ain't got to say anything out of the way. But you got to tell them the truth. It's hurting you. It's not in your best interest. It's not to your advantage. So we have to let our leaders know that's why we got to talk with our representatives. There's very little interaction between the citizenry and the representative. Very little interaction between the citizenry and the government. Now, what has happened, Ms. Malcolm, is this, and this is a major problem, where the person who is voting may go to that particular person, but I want a couple of dollars to get my rent paid. Or I need some bags, some school bags, or I need this, I need that. Wouldn't it be better if that individual is gainfully employed, making his own money, and be able to help oneself? The representative opening up opportunities in that particular area where those people live. Say like in Fort Castle, you have 3 historical, world-renowned sites right in Fort Castle, and they're just sitting there. That doesn't make any sense. What I'm saying is we have to have creative minds. We got to get our local people involved. But there's no action by the representative in that regard. It's just sitting there. And then you got some other people who come there say now they want to take it over. While the residents of Fort Castle are sitting right there and they don't know what's going on. That doesn't make any sense. You have to get the people on the ground involved in improving life in those constituencies.
And what can people do, those people, to make certain that Article 2 of the Constitution is fully enforced?
They are going to have to do some serious work because, Ms. Malcolm, I can tell you, from what I've seen over the last 50 years, Bahamians are going to have to come to understand you are going to have to do some very serious work in dealing with your representative, in dealing with your government. Because a lot of things have happened which have hurt us. Laws that have been passed that work against us. And the people only know when problems come up, they find their 2 hands and their 2 feet locked in. And they can't go nor come. Why should it have to come to that? And they're crying, they're suffering, they're in pain. And then all you can say is, we understand your pain. Couldn't it not be avoided in the first place? But we have to participate and watch what is going on. Listen to what the representatives are saying when they have these House of Assembly meetings. Because some things, that are said there, we could just dismiss that. But all I'm saying is, Article 1, Article 2, once we understand what those articles, see, that's our rights, our freedoms, and privileges. It's going to take us to stop a government, to stop a representative from trampling on our rights, because once the damage is done, Ms. Malcolm, some things you can't retrace, you can't retract it. The damage is done. We have to live through it because it's happened before, Some very serious economic, financial damage has happened in this country. Bahamians are still suffering from it today. So we have to make sure that we put the pressure on the government of the Bahamas and on our representative. We got to represent the House, speak to that representative, say, listen, Mr. Representative, that ain't working. Tell the Prime Minister, whoever, it ain't working. That's not good for the Bahamian people. And if a lot of us start to do it, they're going to listen. See, they got high ratings now. They say they think they're doing good. Well, fine. But the point is, we have many problems that need to be corrected. And it just can't be where we're settling for trinkets. We want something where we own a part of the economy. Own it. Not working for the other fella. We want ownership in this country. But we have to fight for it. And if we don't tell the government and fight for it and have situations in place which can help us to rise above where we are, we'll continue to suffer.
Final question. This one coming in from one of our Facebook viewers, and we only have 3 minutes left in the show, so we got to make this answer quick.
Yes, ma'am.
Does Professor support the concept of open parliament?
Open
parliament.
Open parliament, like what Moultrie had done?
I'm not sure what they mean by this.
I wish he could quickly send back actually mean by open parliament. I'll better be able to answer it.
Okay.
Open parliament. I'm not quite sure. I want to make sure I understand.
He said yes, that's what he means. The part like what Moultrie tried to do. Yes.
Oh, what Moultrie tried to do? Well, from what I understand, now I'll be right to the point on this. From what I understand, the speaker, in his authority, was able to do what he did. Because you can't handcuff him. He can only be removed from that office. Either he resigns or the seat becomes vacant. You can't arbitrarily remove him. He can have parliament. Because he told them to say, oh yeah, you tried to stop me. They couldn't stop him. Because constitutionally he has that power. And he used it, rather unusual circumstance. He used it. So he decided to call it open parliament. And constitutionally, he was correct. If that's what the Facebook person meant.
That's what he's
but that's
referring
fine.
to.
That's fine. But it could work. It's a good thing. I think it's a good thing. Maybe we need to try it some more. That was the first time it happened, as far as I recall.
Wow. Professor, time done gone, man. We only got a minute left in the show, so we got to wrap this thing up. Oh, boy. At least we got through the first chapter. That was the goal, to get us through Articles 1 and 2, and we were able to successfully do that with a minute left.
Okay.
So thank you so much once again for being here.
Yes, ma'am.
And I am really excited to look at Article 3 when we come back, Chapter 2. We're going to open Chapter 2 next week, Monday, God willing.
Yes, ma'am.
They're going to be hot.
Oh, it's going to be extremely hot from the very beginning.
Yes, Lord.
It'll be firing.
All right. Okay. Thank you so much, Professor. I
Thank you
really do
very much.
appreciate your time and being here to help educate the people. That's our time, folks. Tomorrow is another Hot Topic Tuesday. Be sure to tune in. It's going to be very, very, very good. Some good information going forward. In the meantime, I'm Michelle Malcolm. Thank you so much for being a part of GPS. And I'll see you guys tomorrow. Same place, same time, right here on Global 99.5 FM. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Global 99.5 FM reminds our listeners that the views and opinions expressed on this show are those of the host and guests and not necessarily the opinions of the owners of Global Communications Network